Hi, everyone. Welcome to REDCap Tips and Tricks. This is our session on a trick that is affectionately known as the Magic Box. So Magic Box is a REDCap creative use that was originally presented at REDCapCon in 2023 by Jeff Hawley. And essentially, this is an exploitation of the descriptive text field's ability to embed another web page. One of the common things that descriptive text fields are used for is to display a web page or a document within your form. And that can be done by entering the URL for a website, a video, whatever you want to use here in the embed media box. And then you would mark it as inline. And then it displays like this within your form. Now, the trick of the Magic Box is that everything within REDCap, every form, page, report, survey, is going to have its own little web address. So this is the web address for this entire project for the online designer. But this URL would lead me very specifically to this designer page for this form. And so with that knowledge, we're able to take links either from within the same REDCap project or from another REDCap project and embed them into a form. So in this case, this is part of our ticketing system. And then when someone selects that they need help with an e-consent, we have this field branched. So this is all one big descriptive text field right here. And what we've embedded here is the survey page for our e-consent request form. So this is another REDCap survey. We copy the public survey link, paste it into the embed box for that descriptive text field, and then we can just branch this descriptive text field. And when people need to see this other survey, it pops up within the form instead of us having to redirect them to another page. It can be helpful when you're embedding surveys within surveys to include some submission instructions. So in this case, this isn't a REDCap survey that's embedded. This is a booking page that's embedded. But in order to actually get on our office hours schedule, people have to scroll to the bottom and press the button that says book. But a lot of people didn't realize they needed to do that and would just kind of scroll after that and submit without actually getting onto our calendar. So that's where we added these instructions, letting them know, hey, you have to submit it within the window. And then there are instructions down at the bottom here that say, hey, you need to finish the rest of the survey and submit that as well. So that might be something that you need depending on your circumstances. Another part of any REDCap project that's going to have a unique link that you can pop into a Magic Box are reports. So every report is going to have its own little URL. If you have a report that's public, there are actually two versions of the URL. So you can see this report inside of REDCap as a REDCap user. And if it's a public report, you also have the option to click public here. And this is a different URL. So my public presentation of the report and my within REDCap presentation of the report are two different URLs. I can pick which one I want to use. So within this project, on this review form right here, I've embedded the report called Priority Rankings. And in this case, I've done it with this public survey link. The public survey link is pasted right into here. And I have right within this neat little box on my form, I have that report showing up. You can also grab the web address of the report as it's seen from within REDCap. And that means that people will need to be users on the project with report privileges in order to review it, to look at it. And there are some additional things at the top and bottom that don't show up on a public report. So this is going to depend a lot on the situation. PHI can never go into public reports. And on the flip side, if I want to display a report to people who are outside the project, then I need a public report to embed. And especially if people are not used to REDCap, many people do find the public report easier to read as an embedded item. But again, depends on circumstances. PHI should never go into a public report. One of the things that gets really fun with the Magic Box, though, is that it's not just that you can go copy a specific URL from a very specific page within your project. I can also display a form that's specific to a given record and set that up in the designer so that each record I open, it displays the form for that record. So the trick with this is that I'm not copying a URL directly. I'm using smart variables to generate the URL that's relevant to that record. So you can see here, I've got my event, and then I've got survey-URL colon MDG initial intake. So this is telling REDCap to generate the URL of what the survey version of my initial intake form would look like for this specific record. So if I go into a specific record, say this one right here, the information from this specific record is what's displaying. So it's not blank, it's not random, it is specific to this record. And that's because I'm using the smart variables to generate my URL. For embedding forms, you can either use form-URL or survey-URL. This one is built with survey-URL. This discussion form field I've built with form-URL. And this, again, like we saw with the reports, looks a little different. So if I embed with form-URL, people have a lot more options to engage with it, potentially to update it. And they do have sort of the usual navigation items at the left and top that they would have when entering data in the project. And depending on your situation, you might want to just have the display. You might want to give people forms within forms. The possibilities are endless. I do find that the survey version is a little easier for people, especially people who aren't used to REDCap, to read and to understand what they're doing. So in this case, in this project, what I've done is I've enabled my MDG initial intake form as a survey, and then I've hidden the submit button. So people can view it as a survey, but they can't go in and change any of the information. And that's what I wanted for this particular workflow. If I have a form that is submitted as a survey, that can cause problems trying to redisplay it as a survey because the survey, from the perspective of that REDCap record, once it's been submitted, is already done. It's not supposed to keep letting them display the survey. So that can be an issue, but you can get forms within forms, reports within forms, other pages within forms. It is an absurdly flexible tool, and that is why they call it the magic box.